So yes, my name's Gigi, and I work with Guayaki Yerba mate, which I'll tell you guys all about in a second. But before I get into that, I'll do kind of like a shortened version of my personal story. I was in the business school. I graduated in 2011 at CU Boulder, and when I was there at the time, I was really struggling because I felt like a lot of my classes had a little bit too much of an emphasis on profitability and not enough emphasis on like doing the right thing and helping people and the planet. And I was actually on the verge of leaving the business school, and I ended up taking an ethics class that just like totally changed my whole perspective of everything, and really realized that business has this amazing power to actually create so much impact. And so from there, since I graduated, I've been kind of on this path of being led by my passion to really like promote using business as a force for good, because I think it's one of the most powerful ways we can solve a lot of the world's problems. So that's kind of like my shortened personal story. And so you guys are all in like a really amazing position, getting a business degree and being people who will one day, you know, start working for companies and running companies, maybe starting companies. You have this like incredible opportunity to do the right thing and to take the business that you're a part of and really use it to do so much good on the planet. So so I work with Guayaki Yerba mate. We're a certified B Corporation. And so it sounds like you guys are maybe learning about B Corporations. Does everyone kind of have a basic understanding of what it is? Okay. So essentially a B Corp is any company that is really committed to not just making money, but also tied to some sort of cause. Usually it's like social or environmentally driven. And how it works is there is a set of criteria that you essentially have to meet to get your like B Corporation certificate and certification. So it's just like organic or non-GMO or like any certification out there. You get tested on all these different factors, whether it's how you treat your employees, how you give back to the community, what your environmental impact is, like all these things that are so outside the realm of like actual profitability that you get tested on. And if you get a high enough score, then you get this stamp of approval. And if you don't, the B Corp community actually helps show you how you can take it to the next level and become B Corp certified. And I'll play a little video. Let's see if, oh man, I am not a PC person. But let's see, I had it pulled up right here. Cool. So this just talks a little bit about what B Corps are.
Others share this dream and have begun to turn the dream into a community. This community signed a Declaration of Interdependence and invited others to join them. Now more than 900 companies from 29 countries are turning our community into a global movement to redefine success in business. B corporations use the power of business to solve social and environmental problems. An eyewear company that disrupts an industry and serves the poor. A food service company that serves over 1 million meals to low-income public school students every week. A manufacturer that goes green and helps workers move from welfare to a career. An online bookseller that recycles used books and funds local libraries and global literacy. An outdoor apparel company that stewards the environment. An ice cream company that maintains its mission post-sale. B Corp is a certification that helps consumers identify these change makers and investors make money
So just kind of like a simple little video about B corporations. And does anyone know what B corporation Tracy used to work for? It was in that video, actually. Yeah, Cascade Engineering. Just figured I'd throw that out there. If someone had gotten it, maybe that would have been extra credit worthy. We'll see. Yeah. But yeah, so B corporations, they're pretty amazing because, you know, for someone like me who this was their passion and still is of like using business and capitalism to do good in the world, the fact that there's this whole movement and really like community of people that are doing that and setting a standard for it is pretty amazing. And actually, if you go on the B Corporation website, which is bcorporation.net, there's like over 2,000 companies that are B Corps right now, and they go all over the planet. It's a pretty huge network, and it's growing. Yeah, so before I kind of talk about how Guayaki Yerba Mate is a B Corporation and what we're all about, does anyone know what Yerba Mate is? Okay, I have a couple head nods. So I brought some samples. You guys can try some of these cans. This is one of our ready-to-drink products where we have some organic and fair trade flavoring and sweetener in there. But essentially, Yerba Mate is this tree that grows in the South American Atlantic rainforest. It is typically 40 feet tall. It's a shade-grown tree, grows beneath the canopy of all the timbers. It's a crucial part of the ecosystem there. And in countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Paraguay, people drink it typically out of a gourd like this to reap its really amazing caffeinated benefits, as well as its nutritional properties and this thing called theobromine, which it's loaded with, which is an element found in chocolate that literally makes you feel happy and focused. So it's a really good study tool. But yeah, when people drink it out of the gourd down in South America, it's this symbol of connection and community. Like, it's totally not weird if you're walking down the street and someone, like a total stranger, comes up to you and pours you a gourd. It's really just like an invitation to connect, and people drink it all day long down there. Like, you literally will see people on their motorbikes carrying their gourd and their thermos, like self-pouring themselves mate while they're like cruising down the windy roads. It's pretty nuts. But yeah, it's this amazing plant with tons of medicinal properties and gives you a lot of the same benefits that things like coffee do in regards to energy, but make you feel a lot better because it's so nutritious. Here's another picture of it. That's one of our harvesters carrying a bunch of bushels. And then this is what it looks like in one of the rounds of processing, where they dry it and then kind of break it up. So how is Guayaki a B Corporation? Well, it all kind of goes back to our roots, which started actually at a university, Cal Poly in California. There were two students there. One was David Carr, he was from California, and the other was Alex Pryor, who was from Argentina. And they were in a class together, and Alex was like bringing his gourd to class every day, and David went up to him one day and was like, "Why? How can you just bring drugs in here like that? Like, is that allowed?" And Alex, of course, said, "Well, no, this isn't drugs at all. This is yerba mate. This is what we drink in my country. Do you want some?" And so he starts, you know, sharing it with David, and over the span of a couple days, they become like instant best friends. David's totally in love with this mate thing, and you know, funnily enough, they're in a business class because they were in the business school together. Alex was an exchange student there. And they had to do a group project where they started some business. And so, of course, they're like, well, Alex says, we drink mate all the time in Argentina. Like, we don't even have it up here in the United States. Let's start a mate business. So they started this project around bringing mate to the United States. I can't remember if they were sophomores or juniors in an undergrad program. And when they started looking into where they could source mate from, they discovered that there was a big problem. Here you'll see a map of the South American Atlantic rainforest where mate traditionally grows. This picture right here is from 1900. It's kind of hard to see the dates. And this is what it looks like between 1995 and 2000. And the green is obviously the rainforest land. And it's actually gotten much worse than this. And today, I don't know the exact percentage because it's changing all the time, but we are at about 10% of rainforest left standing, which means 90% of trees have been cut down. 90% of trees. Like, that's crazy. And if you go down there, which I was just there this last June, when you drive around, countries like Paraguay, even for hours and hours, you won't see a single tree. All you see is soy, corn, sugarcane plantations. It looks like you're driving through Nebraska. And, alongside it, you see all these billboards for big agricultural companies, fertilizers, GMOs. It's what's happening down there. And it's pretty startling to actually see with your own eyes. Like 90% is a crazy number to me to even hear. And then to actually, we were driving in a car for 8 hours. And it was just like soy farm after soy farm, totally leveled. And obviously, as a lot of you probably know, without the rainforest, there's a lot of bad things that come along. When you're cutting down trees and totally destroying the ecosystems there, the fertility of the soil over time gets totally degraded. So these really poor farmers, that this is all they have is their land and their farms, they eventually will have absolutely nothing of value to give to their kids. Lots of medicine that, especially like the indigenous groups, use is totally extinct and lost forever. Obviously, the obvious one, the rainforest absorbs lots of greenhouse gas emissions. The water retention levels get totally skewed as well when you don't have like the natural composting rainforest floor to make sure that the water is getting properly soaked back into the earth and back into the water cycle system. The biodiversity of the plants and animals gets destroyed because if you take away their home, they go away. And lots of indigenous people also don't have a place to live. So what these students who are now our founders at Guayaki, they've been the founders for 22 years, and they had partnered with a couple other students who have also been like our CEO, COO, CMO for all 22 years, discovered is that because mate is this shade-grown tree, when you let it grow in the shade, it like lives for decades. It grows to be 40 feet tall, and when you're sunbaking it as a monocrop without the rainforest, it only grows to be about this tall. You have to kill it every several years and replant it. It's a lot more work. And so since you have this like big, beautiful tree within the rainforest, you can get way higher quality mate and a good bit more over time once they're really mature trees. And because of that, you're able to pay more money for it. So they started finding these indigenous and like small farming communities that were still growing mate within the rainforest and partnering with them and being able to purchase their mate for higher prices. And this is kind of like the key point of why Guayaki's business model is so effing rad, is that because we're able to pay higher prices when it's shade grown, it means that we are literally incentivizing people to keep trees standing through the fact that they will make more money. So right now, a big reason why the rainforest has been cut down so much is because people think it's more profitable to cut down trees, but we're showing them that they actually make more money by keeping them standing. And so it's kind of this like win-win-win-win-win for everybody, and a really, cool example of how you can make money, you can be profitable, and you don't have to screw over people or the planet. You actually can, enrich everything and everyone. Yeah, and kind of like a few things I touched upon. Shade-grown mate is obviously higher quality. It helps rebuild the soil, fertility, obviously prevents clear-cutting of trees. It does take longer to mature, and it will yield less for many years, but once it's at a mature state, you can actually harvest it twice a year, and so you end up getting far more. later on. And this is a property that actually, I believe this is the one farm that we own, and it's our reserve where we have our foundation, where we bring in farmers, not ones that we purchase mate from, but ones that are looking to go back to the standard way of farming mate and actually replanting the rainforest. And we show them how to do that. But at this reserve, you can see here, it was totally, deforested, degraded. It just looks unhealthy. And then within 5 to 10 years and 20 to 25 years, you actually are seeing the ecosystems rebuild itself, and the rainforest is growing back, which is pretty cool. So with all of this, our vision as a company is that global yerba mate culture will power our market-driven regeneration business model to reforest and create vibrant communities. And with that, our mission is to steward and restore 200,000 acres of rainforest and create 1,000 living wage jobs by 2020, which we're at about halfway of the acres of rainforest that we've been able to preserve and protect, and we are at around 800 or so living wage jobs. So we're getting towards our goal. We have a couple more years. Cross your fingers for us. We're working really hard, but we shall see. And so as you can maybe notice from the last couple of slides and what I just said, we're all about market-driven regeneration. So it's not necessarily like market-driven rainforest replanting or even market-driven restoration, even though we do those things. It's all about regeneration. It's actually allowing the rainforest to regenerate itself, which if you leave a rainforest plot alone, as long as there's like other rainforest land around it, it will regrow itself. There's nothing, you don't have to lift a finger. Like literally the ecosystems start to come back, and there's certain species of animals that will start to like rehabitate the areas. It's pretty amazing. And here's a picture of an example of that. So this is a farming community that we work with in Marecas in Brazil. Around this kind of like red zone is the plot of land that the farming community is in. And in the middle here, you can see a little cleared zone. That is where they live. They clear trees so that they can have their houses and community centers. But in this picture, this is 2010. Obviously, all the pink is deforested zones, and all the green is reforested zones. And it's kind of hard to see on this screen, honestly. But you can see there's little pockets of pink kind of scattered about. And then fast forward to 2017, just without any like human influence other than letting the rainforest grow back and having these mate trees growing to be sold as yerba mate, you can see there's a lot less pink. And so it's kind of like a cool satellite image of the rainforest literally growing itself back, which is really epic. And typically, it can take really only about 10 years to let the rainforest regrow itself back. So, that seems like a long time, but in the grand scheme of life in the world, just think if some of this area where it's like super deforested, just think if we were able to incentivize people to not cut down trees there, how much it would grow back in actually a pretty short period of time. So Guayaki today, as you guys see, we take this mate, we sell it as loose leaf. We also sell it in cans and bottles. We went from the 2 founders to the 5 core students that started the company to now we're almost at like 100 people between North and South America. And we travel all over the place sharing mate and trying to increase our sales, because the more sales that we get, the more land gets protected. And in addition to the rainforest regeneration, which is already pretty cool, we definitely have a lot of other CSR initiatives. Things like biodegradable and recyclable packaging, or recycled and post-consumer paper products, or recycling programs set up at all levels of the company. Our headquarters is even powered by 80% renewable energy. And then the newest one that we're all really excited about is for our supply chain. So like how we get the mate from, you know, the rainforest to here or in people's hands at the store. We have the last leg of the supply chain, which is like the DSD or the last distribution bit, starting to become fossil fuel free, a fossil fuel free fleet. So we're hoping, our goal is to make all of our self-distribution cars totally electric by 2020. And then once we get that done, then the goal is to look at the next chain, or next section of the supply chain to try and make that electric or powered by renewable energy sources. And then the UN Sustainable Development Goals is also, you know, it's a huge thing that we're starting to really incorporate. We already do a lot of these, but it's kind of starting to dictate even bigger decisions that we make, so we can apply them to all of these. But you know, a lot of the ones that deal with social issues like no poverty, hunger, education, health and well-being, in line with the rainforest regeneration initiatives that we do. We also are a Fair for Life company, so we're really committed to working with the farming communities that we're partnered with and making sure that they have enough to lead healthy, happy lives, have education if they like, and do things to really like raise their standard of living. And with that, how that works, being Fair for Life, you know, you have your standard price of mate that we would, that any supplying company would buy from the farmers at. And then a fair trade price is that standard price plus, you know, whatever amount the fair trade committee deems as making their lives at, you know, or bringing their lives to a place where they can really be successful. And what Fair for Life is on top of that fair trade price that they're getting paid individually, each community actually has this fund in addition to it where we're paying extra for this fund, and it goes into long-term strategic projects that the community selects. Like we have a committee, the community has a committee where it has a member from Guayaki, a member from Fair for Life, and then members of the community that all meet on a regular basis to discuss like what this fund is going to be used for. It can be things like building a school. It can be a food sovereignty program, maybe like putting a soccer field in, which is something that's come up recently for us. But yeah, really trying to work with the communities and help give them a good, healthy life that they deserve. Yeah, and there's so much more. I mean, I could talk forever about it all, so we'll wait until the Q&A section for that. And really quick too, I will pull up our impact report, as it sounds like you guys have been talking about this in class. So we just actually put out our impact report, which is pretty exciting, and it takes into account all sorts of data that we've been collecting over the years. And you guys will all get a copy of this so you can check it out. But, you know, for example, we're at 81,000 acres of rainforest that has been stewarded to date. So we're at around half of our goal. We work with 1,126 families of indigenous and smallhold producers in Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. 22 acres has been dedicated to food sovereignty programs in the Ache and Marecas indigenous communities. So, you know, making sure that they have access to good, healthy food. And that's stuff that they decided to put in, and we just were essentially paying for it through our continued purchase of mate from them. But yeah, you guys can go through this at a later time. There's all sorts of really interesting information and statistics, and it's all super real. Like, when you do these kinds of reports, you're not really necessarily trying to paint the picture of, oh, like, look at all the good we're doing. It's real data on here's where we're at, here's where we need to be. And so you get a really clear picture of what types of things we're paying attention to. And anytime you look at a company's impact report, it's a really good way to get a gauge on where they stand with a lot of issues that you might care about. Okay, so yeah, and then just really quick, you know, once you guys are out of school, if this is something that you're passionate about too, or if you want to use your business degree to really make the world a better place, there's so many resources out there. Like this movement, it has been growing drastically. And so I had a couple links that Tracy can send your way with this PowerPoint that you guys can check out if you're interested in getting into this type of work. Yeah, and so that's it. What questions do you guys have? Yeah?